So, welcome to No Shame, episode 20 now. Well past the double digits now into the 20s. It's still in the Limor studio, but sadly Robin's not here with us today. I was away in Italy this week, and it was tight for time. So poor Robin had to miss out on this one. Shane is away in London pushing the Limor conspiracy as it is. So today I have one of my good friends, probably one of my best mates, Deano Don Leo. If anybody that knows me knows that me and Dean started jiu-jitsu same day, same time. His dad got us into it, Jim Donnelly. So today, most of the conversation is going to be two mates having a conversation about religion. Now, when I say about religion, this is going to be like the pagan view on what I experienced this week. I'm not religious at all. I actually don't know how religious you are. How religious are you?
Not at all.
Not at all. So, look, we were having a conversation the other day after I came home from Assisi. So Assisi is where I was in Italy. And anyway, so Assisi is a small little town outside Rome, about 2 hours outside Rome, and it's known for St. Francis of Assisi. I went away with a group. Father Martin would have been the kind of leader of the group. Now, as I said, I am not religious at all. The reason why I go away on this trip is because Assisi is one of the most peaceful places I've probably ever been. You don't really use your phone too much. Don't use your internet. Your phone's not on your hand, and you can just stroll around this ancient town. It's about 3,000 years old. Everybody is so nice. The coffee is beautiful. The food is beautiful. You cannot beat it. You really can't. I don't get involved in the kind of it's kind of like a spiritual retreat if you must. Father Martin would be a bit of a rogue priest. He's not your traditional priest. I met him in school. He was the chaplain in my school, and when I met him, I think it was about 14 years of age, 15 years of age, and he was sound. The chaplain before that was a bit of a lunatic, to be honest. A quick little story on that. Father Donald, do you remember him?
I remember him, yeah.
Remember him?
Yeah.
The reason why I think we kind of clicked with this guy as a friend rather than anything else, he was really sound. The priest in the school before it was called Father Donald. I remember saying to him one day, Deano, right, in class, I said to him, like, should I be smarter than Jesus Christ? He fucking freaked.
I know, I remember. Father Martin would allow you to have a conversation and question everything, and he'd listen to you where the other fellow just cut it in half. No.
That's kind of the reason why we'd be mates with Father Martin rather than you know what I mean, the idea of when I was going away on that thing as well. Like that's my second time doing it now. Like people are like, "What are you? We never knew you were a mad religious kind of the head," and you're like,
I'm not.
You know what I mean? But as you just said there, nail on the head. You can ask Father Martin. So I have a million questions about religion, and I'm sure everybody else does. So the questions that come up when you're sitting having a pint with your mates and usually what the answer is you have to have faith. Now, I'm not doing this podcast here to bash religion or something like that, but I'm definitely going to go through a little theory that I have. So this is maybe a unique conspiracy theory is by myself. Could be wrong, but after looking the other night and having a flute around on the internet and watching a few different documentaries, and as I said, it was inspired from me coming back from Assisi. So I'll explain a little bit about Assisi just so you kind of know where we are, and then when we get stuck into it. So Assisi was originally a Roman town. So the Romans owned it, and it was a pagan town. So they practiced with other gods. So they have a temple called the Temple of Minerva, which was built for the god Minerva, the goddess Minerva. It's right in the centre of the town, and everything was kind of ruled around this. The Romans obviously ruled with a hard hand, with whips and the fear of crucifixion and all of these kind of punishments. So that's where I kind of got the reason of, I think they might have seen something in the idea of Christianity and using that as like a controlling tool, a tool to be able to control. I think most religion is a controlling thing. If you look really into it, you have to do what you're told. You have to do certain things, and it's broad. So when we're talking about religions, I'm talking about there's so many religions that it's nearly would be a lottery to pick the right one. I was only saying to Dean there a while ago, if you Google Hinduism and you Google how many gods that there is, any guess?
No, hundreds.
There's 330 million gods in Hinduism.
Yeah.
So You have more chance of going out and winning the lottery in Ireland than you do of picking the right one, is what I'm saying. So loads of the questions came on, and as I said, Father Martin is one of the... I was going to bring him in today, but to be honest, I think I'd probably get him in trouble if I had brought him in with some of the answers. Well, maybe I'll get him in to elaborate on some of this when people have their own questions. I rented a moped in Italy.
Yeah, seen that. Look fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. Amazing. The way Assisi is, it's kind of it's a town on the side of the hill, but then it's overlooking
It's in a valley, is it?
It's in a valley, but it's overlooking like vast amounts of olive bushes and like grapevines and all of this kind of stuff. When I was looking out my window, I was like, I just want to get a moped and fly through that, and that's exactly.
Best way to see it.
Oh, brilliant! So we ended up doing that, and I had this little idea. I wanted Chelsea to videotape me from my room, me going in the distance along on a moped, but a little bit of heat, wasn't too warm, which was good for me because gingers don't do too well in the warm, but the peace of mind in it, that was the biggest thing of it. Walking around the town, you can feel that there's so much old stuff that has been there. Like they have a tradition that on the buildings that, you know, and Dean will be a bricklayer as well, as I said. So Dean's into jiu-jitsu. Dean got his bricklaying apprenticeship as well, so he could strangle you to death and then build you a tomb if you must.
Good way of putting it.
It is a decent way of putting it. But in where was I? Was I lost in that? I'm not getting lost there. Oh yeah, so Italy has walking around the ancient thing of Assisi. So Assisi, they used to have arches in the door, you know, right? So an arch doorway, and if somebody died in that house, they brought the body back through the arch, so in its coffin, and then they built the arch up. Yeah. So the spirit couldn't go back into the building.
Yeah, yeah.
So as you're walking down the town, you'll see loads of these arches, up high, down low, all sorts of places.
Closed every up.
Yeah, and where you can know that the steps used to run up to these arches and stuff. So you can see, you know what I mean? You can see where the doors have been in different places. But now, when I say that I'm not into religion, I do enjoy the stories. I do enjoy a few stories. I think a lot of the stories in the Bible and a lot of stories to do with saints and stuff like that, they are really interesting. Saint Francis being probably the most interesting one. Saint Francis was rich, so beyond your wildest dreams, his family, they used to make cloth and they used to make tapestries. So in Assisi at that time, they had the best kind of silks and the best materials. They would have been like the Gucci's of the time. So you've got this guy with all of this wealth, incredible amount of wealth, his fathers and his brothers and sisters, and they live in the town centre. So if you lived in the town centre of Assisi that time, you would have been extremely rich. It'd be like living in O'Connell Street in Dublin now, if you must, or a big street in London. So the idea of St. Francis was that he went away to war, and it changed him. It made him realise that all the kind of the stuff that you hold on to in life, the stuff that you put your love into regarding possessions, materials and stuff like that wasn't for him. So what he did was he started to give away all his riches. Now people thought that he was mental in Assisi at the time. So he was giving away all of his money and people were obviously taking it. So people would have been like, this fella's at the going off the bongo, you know? Yeah. So He ends up going out to this place called San Damiano, which is like down a little lane, and you can visit this when you go to Assisi as well. And as I said, the history of this stuff intrigues me, and the stories rather than. Then it got a little bit crazy for me, and I'll explain as we go on here how crazy when it got crazy. When people kind of try to push yeah, and then he did this, and you're like, nah, maybe that's a step too far. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he went down to San Damiano. He was supposed to be, there was this ruins of a church there, and he was praying at the church, and supposedly God told him to rebuild the church. So he thought, God is telling me to rebuild this church. So he started putting all his hours and time into building up the building, the actual physical building of it. But as time went on, he realised that God wasn't talking about the building. The God was talking about the actual church, so rebuild the church of Christianity even a way. So what St. Francis did was he got a massive following. So thousands and thousands. When he died, he had 5,000 followers anymore. So if he was on Instagram back in the day, he was doing all right. You know what I mean? Doing better than most of the stun hunts. You know what I mean? St. Francis was doing all right. So, but he dedicated his life to going and working with the lepers and living with the lepers. He had another guy, Bernard, right? So you can walk up to this guy's house where he used to live and where St. Francis visited him and where he left all his stuff behind as well. Right. So Bernard was a guy, was St. Francis's friend, and he was a chief warrior as well. So he had been to war and fought in the Crusades. And then when he came back, when he seen what St. Francis was doing, he started to see how happy he was getting from this, his happiness. He ended up selling all of his house. He owned this whole street. You can see that he sold, and by looking at it now, like the stonework on it is incredible. At this, it'd be worth millions these days. So he sold everything and joined St. Francis, and this is what people start to do. And then a girl named there's another saint came out of this story called Saint Clare. So Saint Clare was a 12-year-old who left her family at the time, was intrigued by St. Francis and followed him, and went down him. There's now a I think it's called a Bastille or something like that. So a big, massive church in the middle of the town called St. Clare's. Right. And her whole body is in it. But listen to this, Deano. Let's see how freaky this is, right? After about 100 years, they dug up her body. And she didn't decay. Right. So she didn't go to bones. Yeah. The nuns washed her body. And they set in decay. So by the year of putting water on her, they said
then she decomposed.
She was allergic to water. Now listen, we all know scientifically that that's not the case. Now some of the people that were there when he was telling this story was like, oh, that was God's way, and I start to see kind of the weirdness that came through with some people. Now I'm all for spirituality and believing and loving each other. And I'm all about that life. But when it starts getting weird, I'll call these the angry religious. Yeah. Violent they would be violent. You could see these people. I could see with the mob mentality, the mentality of somebody turned on you. So say if I was giving my opinion across, you could see these people that people start kicking and spitting at you that they'd join in. You know what I mean? You could see it building up.
No, absolutely, yeah.
The girl St. Clare, anyway, she became the St. Clare's, which are kind of like nuns now. They ran the church, the St. Damiano. So even when St. Francis moved off, he moved off to live with the lepers, and he was helping lepers, and crazy story. But then they have a story about a wolf, where the wolf of Gubbio. So he went up to a wolf. This wolf was eating all the kids in the town in a place called Gubbio. I was trying to get out there on my moped, but I couldn't make it. I went to a place called Spello. I'll tell you about that now in a second. Mad story there about having a shit in a restaurant. So he went Gubbio. There was this wolf, and he was coming into the town, and he was eating all the kids, and he was eating people at night. My first question was, and he rang St. Francis. You know what I mean? A 5-foot guy that's probably not that violent and probably very loving to go and get the wolf. In the time where you had hunters and warriors and these guys, and they say, oh no, they tried them. The warriors couldn't. They kept eating the warriors, and they had a question for everything, and an answer for everything. So I said, all right. So I believe you. Right. So St. Francis is walking into a forest. So tell me what happens now. So he's walking into the forest to approach this wolf. And guess what they say, he walked up to the wolf. He says, how are you? Right? He talks to the wolf. So he's having a conversation with the wolf, and he asks the wolf what's wrong with him. Why is he doing this? And the wolf says, this is why I know that the stories are good, because there's something in them that you're not supposed to take literal, but you're supposed to live by it. It's a, what are you hidden mean? What do you call it?
Yeah, like a hidden mean.
Like a hidden mean. Yeah. So
analogy.
Yeah. So the wolf explains to St. Francis that he lost all his family, and all the pack moved off and left him there on his own. And then when it gets dark at night, he's on his own. He's hungry. He's cold, and he's wet. And St. Francis kind of understands with the wolf as the story goes. Yeah. So when they get there, they get to like an agreement, a negotiation, that they say every person in the town is going to leave the scraps of their dinner in a pot in the middle of the town, and what the wolf can come out at the middle of the night and he eats that, and that solves the story. So that's how they solved the wolf of Gubbio. And the wolf becomes so famous that they literally, when the wolf died, they buried it, and you can go to that burial spot, and they erected this big, huge kind of like wolf in the middle of the town. And anytime you see St. Francis in a picture and stuff like that, there's a little wolf beside him. You know what I mean? People used to be like, oh, St. Francis had a dog. Yeah. But that's the story of that. Anyway, but as I said, the stories are pretty cool. And I think St. Francis as a saint was pretty cool. But over the few days, then I started thinking, St. Francis uses a thing called a tau. So it's not a cross, right? So Jesus used a cross, and St. Francis used a tau. And when you kind of look at it modern days, that's kind of like Nike and Adidas, if you think as it's a signature. It's a sign. It's related to a model or product, if you must. Yeah. So here's where I start going crazy on it, Deano. Right? I think that the common denominator between all of religion and Christianity and all of this stuff is the Romans.
Right.
Because the Romans were there through most of it. And so, as I said, this town was, say, Assisi. I mean, we'll fly back in time now for a second, but Assisi was there in the year... St. Francis, the time of St. Francis was the 1200s. So the year 1200, the Romans had controlled that town since the year 300 BC. You know what I mean? They started to build it and started to put into it. Like, I think it's way... That's that place, Spello, as I was telling you. So Spello, when you flew out to Spello on the moped, Spello was a little town about half an hour away from Assisi. That was a gift. So it was a gift from, I think it was the Romans gave it as a gift to a warrior, and he created this town. So it's like Assisi, but it's down the road, and it's much less like commercialised than you must. It'd be like going to Tala from Temple Bar, if you must. You know, it's Temple Bar is all, and then when you go out to Tala, it's not so dilly anymore. Yeah. So the idea of we went down to Spello, and that was beautiful because that was same again. And I kept mentioning you, I was like, Deano, I'd love this. The wall, look at that brickwork. She doesn't give a fuck. No. And the coffee, oh Jesus.
Yeah, good eating, good drinking.
Gorgeous, good eating, good drinking, good coffee, all of that. But we went to this Spello town. I walked into a restaurant, right? And I mean, it was absolutely gorgeous, you know. I mean, the view, you'd pay a few €100 over here just for your dinner because of the view. Looking over meadows upon meadows for miles. And I goes in, right, it bops into this little restaurant. I mean, I was bursting at this time. The coffee had well and truly kicked in, right? Liquefied me. So when I got there, I jumped into the restaurant and I goes, can I use your toilet? And your man's like, yeah. And then he goes, you Irish? And I was like, yeah. Like, this Italian fella. What do you mean we're in the middle of nowhere? Right? And he turns around and goes to me. Goes, yeah. He's like, what part? I was like, Dublin. He goes, Bobby Sands is my idol. Yeah. And I was like, no way. Like, they're Bobby Sands. And he's like, yeah, see, there's this guy, he's 66 days, and he knew everything about him. I was shocked, right? But I was like, how awesome is that in this little tiny town out here? But like, it doesn't finish there, right? So I went to the Jacks, and I'm on the way back out, and the guy's kind of having a little conversation with me. Like, I hope your country gets its independence and all. Like, yeah, and I'm like, that's like, there's people in England that don't understand that whole situation. And then he says to me when I'm going out the door, guess what? Chucky or law. That's what he says to me.
Deadly.
In it. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this guy in the middle of Italy is preaching this Irish history in this to me. But so fly back in time. So I'm going back to Jesus' times now. So I start thinking, right, St. Francis might have been the new Jesus, if you must, and he was the European Jesus. So to create somebody that is going to have a huge following and takes the idea off you have to punishing and whipping people. So if you fly back to kind of say like the times of Nazareth, or Judea. So Judea was what, like all of the countries that Jerusalem and all of these countries belonged to a place called Judea. You go back before Jesus even came. So Jesus comes into the town on the Passover. So it's kind of like a festival's going down, yeah. So Jesus turns up at Oxygen on the Monday. Yeah. So I mean, but he was dead by the Friday. So that's the way the story kind of starts, and that's fascinating in itself. You know what I mean? Didn't he make it to the weekend? No. Yeah. So when Jesus turned up, but before that, here's a few of the questions I have. Jesus created the kingdom of God, and this is why I asked Father Martin these questions, and he was like, whoa, he couldn't. I actually walked up to 2 priests in the airport in Rome, random priests, and asked them this question, just flat out, and he couldn't really answer it. I asked 2 of them. One of them was, if Jesus created the doorway to heaven, and the way that you go into heaven if you're good to see his Father, or whatever that the way it works is, then where did everybody go before then? And you won't believe the answer, I'll tell you now, right? But this was the priest gave me the answer. Where did everybody go before then? So where did Noah go? Yeah. Where did these guys that were working for God go? Because heaven wouldn't have been created. So what? Yeah,
they were all irrelevant.
Were they all irrelevant? So wherever they went, there must be somewhere else other than heaven. And this is what the priest said to me in the airport. He said, they were waiting for the arrival of the Messiah. Like, where, mate? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So if there is somewhere that your soul could wait, or your spirit could wait, or which way is that, How does that work? Because then that has to be still there.
Yeah.
Or did they like liquidate that place or something like that?
Possibly, yeah.
You know,
bankrupt.
And then we went into the kind of the little bit weirder one of original sin, if you must, alright? So, and these are a lot of the questions that I struggle with, and I would have been, in Ireland, you're born a Catholic, you know. We've all made that communion, we've all made that confirmation in Ireland. Some of them mightn't even understand what it means. It's a few quid usually when you're at a session, when you're a kid. But Irish people are hardwired. Catholic is hardwired into us. I don't know why, but sometimes when an ambulance goes by, you'll bless yourself and you won't even bleed know why. You know what I mean? And you're like, but you've no connection to religion. You've no connections that if I believe and I do good things, that I'm going to go to a special place. I do good things because I like to do good things. I believe that there's a great benefit in that.
We're that generation now that's questioning. My man, dad, your man, dad would have been still under the Christian brothers, but Nanny and Grandad's would have been totally strict under the priest. The priest would have controlled the whole country back 40 years ago.
Exactly.
With more power than politicians.
And the word you use there is beautiful, because it goes into my theory here on this. Control, you know. If you go whipping people and killing people and all that, control is hard. That's a lot way harder. That's like trying to control a wild horse.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Nanny would have said if the priest was on the same road, you were on the path and he's walking down the road, you crossed the road.
That's mad.
That's crazy.
That's mad, isn't it?
That's just the way you're reared, but as you said, it's just part of what we were taught.
So a lot of the downloads of the No Shame show come from like different countries, would you believe? Yeah, a bigger proportion does.
Right.
Canada, Boston, England, Australia. Yeah, all the boys in Australia. Go on, Paddy, tell them the mountaintop. But a lot of the downloads come from that. So a lot of people that were Irish, they realise what we're talking about with the Catholicism, if you mean, in Ireland, the idea of being hardwired religious, and it's not right. I don't like to be a hardwired religious, you know. I don't want to be blessing myself with things, but most people are. Now, as kids go on, I know when we have more kids, I probably wouldn't get them christened, and I probably wouldn't move forward through that idea, but the old Irish thing would be, but then they can't make that communion. But that's kind of the point, you know what I mean? So, say if you go back to the time, as I said, before Jesus arrives, so say 10 years before Jesus arrives in Judea, right? The Romans kind of, they didn't stay in Judea, in Jerusalem. What they did was they had like posts there, and the guy punches Pilate that put him to death was. And you know the thing is as well, they know what I noticed on the weekend. Sorry to cut off my own story there, is that I probably know more about religion and these religious stories than most of these mad guys that are banging religion into my face. Where, you know what I mean? And I was kind of like, I'm not the type to be like you shall not believe, but it was the other way around. That's what we felt from that experience in Italy. I was surrounded by, I was the wrong one, when I was 100% feeling, no, I'm in the right, you are all just a little bit crazy, to be honest.
As you said, when you approach the two priests, like, the difference is, you are looking for an answer and you go looking for a source, and he's telling you, no, it was God. And you're saying, but how can you tell me that? I need more. So no, but it was God. That's all you need to know. And that's how people are pretty much, for a word, brainwashed. Like, if you were thinking, when you said that Jesus came, whatever year it was, and what happened to the people beforehand, that's like me saying, we're going to be getting a dump. You just keep throwing your garbage out the front window, and eventually it'll be taken away. But what do you mean eventually? When is that going to happen? Don't worry, it will happen. Alright, so we'll just keep throwing stuff out and just hope.
And just hoping for it. Yeah. The other one, as I said, was I'll go through the questions at the end of it after I'll go through the story of what my theory is on how it happened, alright? So I think about 10 years before Jesus came in, there was prophets before. So there's guys that used to stand up in the town and be screaming about, like, you could have the God of bus stops. Yeah. You could have the God of wherever you wanted. And if it sounded plausible, people would start following you. And I reckon what happened was the Romans were seeing this happening. And like any group, if somebody starts getting powerful and rising up and growing up, the leaders will obviously try to kind of put the lid back on them and push them back down. And that's usually what happens. So I'd say these guys, say if there was 10 people standing in the town hall or the town centre and screaming religion and talking about religion, and then these guys start getting a following. So say the idea of they'd start preaching against the gods that the Romans would be going against, or they'd be going against what the Romans believed, and the Romans, they didn't fucking like that, no matter what I was talking about. So these guys start getting a following, and then all of a sudden, one of the Roman generals decides, listen, he's getting too big for his boots, he has too many followers, and they kill him, alright? And this is before Jesus. And then all of a sudden this thing starts happening where we know how, like in Ireland, I think if the British could have went back and not killed the leaders of the 1916 Rising, they probably wouldn't have, because it backfired on them. They created martyrs, they created bigger following, they created a bigger kind of idea of somebody in debt. So maybe they start realising that, man, we just keep killing these fuckers, you know what I mean? These guys that are preaching about whatever they want to preach about. Some of it is just crazy. There's no way we can have people walking around believing that stuff, but people are believing it. Yeah. But then they seen something. They seen the idea of, like, in Roman times it would have been pagan times. So the gods that there was loads of gods. As we went into there's hundreds of gods, millions of gods in existence of human history. But the idea of the Romans, they realised that they had loads of gods, and then you can imagine some guy in encrypting loads of stuff and going, hold on, he said this, and then there's a million questions about 10 different gods. Like, if you think about the questions we have about, say, one god, if that's the case, imagine the questions about 10 of them. And I reckon the Romans kind of sat down after a little while and were like, you know what, boys, we fucked up that idea a little bit. We need to have one god. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the idea of putting the work in, when, say, they heard the Messiah's coming and all this, that's a great little idea. Maybe he is coming. And then all they had to do was pick one of these guys, make him a martyr, but not only that, make it seem as it was true, and follow on the word themselves. Yeah. So they're the ones who kind of controls what people say. Is they already controlled all the priests in the town. They controlled all the high Jews, all of the guys. They had a guy before Jesus came, Herod the Great, who was called King of the Jews. They wanted a king that, and these guys liaised on with the Romans every day. Yeah. So they wanted a guy that could control the parishes, I think, and they just control the guys. Yeah. So like a management, you know what I mean? And the idea is that you're not thinking about whipping people now and murdering them and killing them if they don't do what you say. Someone else is going to punish them. What they did was the only God that gave the promise, and this was the marketing thing, I think, that was the selling point, Deano, right? That when eternal life was promised, and Christianity was the first religion to give that. Yeah. Humans, I don't care what religion you follow, humans fear death. And this was the first religion coming along saying that if you do what I say, that, and there's going to be, like, miracles, and there's going to be this. And then you have, like, so say the Romans, I'm like, and this is a theory, don't attack me over this, right? So the Romans are sitting there and saying, how can we control people without having all the confusion of having 10 gods if we had one god? And then they seen the idea of the stories of the Messiah is going to come. And then this guy turns up that they've heard about, that's pretty famous at the time. So say if they had someone like, say, like Conor McGregor, or somebody that's really, really, they can promote something really, really easy, really quick by saying it, and people believe what they say. They created all the stories of miracles. They created all the stories of the rumours of this and that. And then when Jesus comes into town, and they notice that he has this huge following, they're not going to kill him because they'll make him a martyr. Yeah. But then they realised, hold on, if we do kill him, and then all of a sudden we make prophecies before he died, and we make them come true, well, then we kind of control the situation of that. And the church and the priests and the guys involved already had control of them. So, say they crucified Jesus, and this is another part of this. So, when Jesus got crucified, it was Pontius Pilate that crucified him, and he said that the Jewish people, it was the high kings that the high kings that were offended by Jesus, the Jews, or the high king, or the high priest Jews that were offended by Jesus, because everyone started believing them. So say if you were a big guy in, like, kind of your organisation, and then all of a sudden some people start believing them, like, you know what I mean? You're gonna, and so the high priest of the Jews said to Pontius Pilate was the guy that sentenced him to death, said that the Jews made me do it, because the Romans don't want to look bad either, you know? So the Jews ended up getting him executed, if you must. Yeah. And he goes on about the Christianity, and he gave the Last Supper and all of this stuff, and he had 12 guys to follow on, and Mary Magdalene as well, which is another situation where if she doesn't fit into your story, ruin her name. And that's kind of what happened in that situation. There's a film out, I'm actually looking forward to seeing that now, that Mary Magdalene film.
It's out already, is it?
Yeah, it's out already, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing it, because I wonder how that's portrayed. But, so Jesus said, after 3 days, I'm going to rise. So I'll rise again. Like, I'll die now, but I'll rise again. They're going to take down the temple or something, but in 3 days I will rebuild it or something, he said, right? So as he dies, they put him into a temple. And here's where it starts getting really, really, really crazy to me. Because all of that story up to there, do we believe that Jesus was a man that came into a town and that believed? Yeah, maybe. I do. Maybe that is true. Yeah? The other word that people go on is, where did he find guys named Matthew, Mark, Luke and John or whatever it is? I asked Father Martin that question and he said to me, where do you think the names came from? I look, right, that answers that question. Maybe they were more popular names in them, that side of the world. And now all of a sudden they're on their side of the world, we're like, how is he going to find a load of boys named that out in Jerusalem? Because probably that's where they started, right? Yeah. So I was like, right, hold my hands up. I don't know many people that would hold their hands up on the other side of this argument and say, I'm wrong. Point. I'm wrong, fair point. That's what I said, right? Fair point on that one. But so they kill Jesus, they bring him off, and they bury him in a tomb. And now the Romans are freaked. The Romans are freaked that if this guy rises up, they know. So they already know that he's going to be a martyr. But if he rises up, then this means that everything he said before that becomes true. And this is where I think they might have already overdone the Jews. So say the Jews, Herod the Great, had a deal with the Romans, if you must, that we'll do this, we'll kill him and then use control again. And then all of a sudden the Romans say, hold on, he has a mad following. Maybe we'll just kill him and then hijack the following rather than putting you back in control. And the high priests were freaked because, well, don't let him rise. They knew that if Jesus had arose, that all of their power would have been gone in that little moment because everything he said would have been true. So I think that they put him into a tomb, and this is what I'm saying to Father Martin as well. All right. So, and I got a link to the St. Francis Assisi story as well. So, if a guy at that was that popular, think about if someone like Elvis died, yeah, his body. Imagine what the fans would be like to get their hands on the body, Deano. So to put him in a tomb is a little bit reckless. Where most people they just threw the bodies away and burned them but with Jesus they were giving back the body, the Jews if you must, and they put him in the tomb, and on the third day they go into the tomb and he's gone. His whole body's gone, not just his soul. And that's what I don't understand either. So Jesus rose from the dead. Why wouldn't there be hundreds of guards on that? The Romans didn't, or the Jewish priests definitely didn't want them to rise, and then the Romans didn't want them to rise, say. But then they were thinking maybe when them guys said to them, if he rises, do you understand that he's going to have so much control and power over people? And they're all like, well, we have control over the people that have the control over the word that he says. And they see an opportunity of, right, if we remove that body from that tomb, then he rose. Then he had got the thing to rise from the dead.
We just keep continuing the story the way we want to.
Do you get what I'm saying? And then they could write the story whatever which way they wanted after that. They had kind of the ultimate control of power, if you must. They could create a whole new religion with one God that they controlled with all of the word and all of the going forward. And it's crazy when you think of it.
But it's like business.
It's like business.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that's what I said. And I said this to Father Martin as well, and he wouldn't be shabby on that thing. He wouldn't understand a lot about that. Like I said to him, they remarketed it, basically. And then when we go to St. Francis, this is why I started thinking of this, because thinking of St. Francis, I was like, how many years is that back to Jesus, and how far is that? And I kind of linked it all together. So when the Jesus story, and as I said, I don't mean to offend anybody on this. This is just my little theory of rambling in my head and just questioning it, yeah. So then you have things, original sin. If you were born, so after Jesus died, the fact that was that any baby born after Jesus was born with original sin. So a baby had just been born was born with the sin of its parents. Right. It didn't create its own sin.
After Jesus.
Right. Well, there was no baptism before Jesus. So Jesus created this. So this is what I used to say, okay, so if a baby, say, touch wood, if a baby died without being baptised, it used to go to a place called purgatory. So, because it couldn't make it to hell because it hadn't been washed of its sins. So before Jesus was there, where babies that died before that, where did they go? Did they, you know what I mean? And these are the questions that a lot of people that are just obvious there. Like, maybe people have asked them, but maybe they haven't. Hopefully they have, and I'm going to get the answer back on this, and I'm going to be like, oh, right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. But where did they go? So the original sin idea, and I asked the priest that as well. I said, what about original sin like? And not only that, I pushed it outside. I said, okay, so you being a Catholic priest, you believe that you're God and baptism and he goes to hell. What about babies outside the religion? What about babies in Buddhism and all of these things? Like, and he couldn't really answer that. He said, well, I think God understands the idea of approach to goodness rather than... I'm like, you're either in or you're out, mate. You know what I mean? You have to have an answer for this stuff if you're going to dress yourself in a special robe and say that you have these answers. Same way I do.
If you have a sales pitch, you have to be 100% committed to your product.
Think about it. If we're teaching jiu-jitsu out on the mat there, Deano, and someone comes and gives us questions, look, I'm not going to go to them, have faith in your arm bars. Have faith in your... The word faith, this is a good one as well. The word faith means belief without evidence. So if you're having a conversation, say, with somebody that's really trying to tell you that you're missing the way and that you're going to regret it when Judgment Day comes and stuff like that, tell them to take away the word faith, and instead they have to say the sentence, you have no belief without evidence.
Yeah.
Because it sounds a little bit different. Faith's a nice pretty word if you ask me, you know. So then it goes on. So you have the apostles, and the apostles are hiding because they're shitting themselves now because they're like we're going to get killed as well because we know the story about the story, and they might say they might have taken the body. I believe there's a lot more situations in, like, say, a really poor place at the time where starvation and poverty is massive. There's more of a chance of a body going missing than rising up and walking out of a tomb.
Yeah.
But we use it, but now, and that's the part that people really, that's where religion comes. They believe that Jesus rose from the dead. I know Father Martin would believe this. He would believe that he raised back up and he walked on, and then he reappeared. So he reappeared at a dinner with the apostles, and then he told them that he reappeared in another place, and the next place that he reappeared, listen to this story, and these stories are in the Bible. You can read them if you want. They're actually a bit of crack. Well, not that I've ever read the Bible, but when I've heard a story, it's caught me ear, and I'll be like, oh, jazz, it's a good story. They're on a boat and they're fishing, right, and they catch nothing all night, and then it comes to dawn. Me and you have been fishing. When's the best time to fish? Probably in the morning, in the dawn, right? And supposedly this guy on the shore says, throw your net over there. And he gets them to cast the net in a certain place, and they get so much fish that he can't even pull it up. They don't know if it was Jesus, but it looked like Jesus. And he told them what to do, and that was the second turning of the Messiah. Makes no sense, you know what I mean? Like, the idea of, like, there's a lot of holes there, you know, for him to be reappeared to the apostles. So the apostles, and anyway, some of them got crucified after it anyway, and it changed the whole idea where I think if you're going to whip people and turn them into martyrs and try to control people through pain and hurt and stuff like that, you're gonna have a hard time with people. But if you can create this love and look after, and then in Assisi, right, I went down. There's this Roman tomb, right? You can go down into it. It's through a shopfront, but it's the old city and it's under it. And I'm not messing. You want to see how clever these people. Like, it's still the street where they were. There's parts of it broken, and they have drainage for waste, for water. All this stone carved in a certain way. Yeah. Beautiful carvings. The shop signs they have carved into stone. It's just incredible looking and standing there. You're standing in the exact same place that this would have been. The same, they decorate. Yeah, you know what I mean? The way they decorate, marble, chiseled, stuff like that. You're talking about 3,000 years ago, and you're talking about people that you're like, right, these people were obviously very, very clever. And they wanted to live in peace. And even though the Romans, we see them killing each other and violent, and they wanted to live in peace. They knew that war costs money and war costs bodies, and it's a bad thing for everybody. So the idea, I don't think they did it maliciously, but the idea was like, man, we need to let people know. Like, say at that time, obviously the Romans would have been clever, but a lot of people living outside the village and stuff like that wouldn't have been. They would have been uneducated, and they would have been but then people come at you in hundreds and 200s with a crazy belief that Like, that could be, I said, whoa, that could be...
You believe in this guy and you could be where I am.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That could be, and all of a sudden, they start listening to these guys, because, of course, these guys give them water, they give them they tell them about the sun, the stars, they have all, the high priests are all, the high priests and all, seen in Rome as well, they were all given tax breaks, Deano, and higher places in offices and all when this went through, and it sounds the exact same. So, when it goes on, you're kind of thinking to yourself, right, that sounds about right. That why wouldn't everyone want to live with love and looking after each other and forgiveness and all of the right things? So I think there is a core of religion that the Romans were trying to put together. But with about 5 things, then it went crazy. Then it went like, hold on, if you don't do this on a Friday, God's got, like, all of this stuff that came, and that became controlling. That became where people wanted their part of the product. Yeah. And trust me, I've witnessed that in modern day as well. People want to be part of the success, if you must, you know what I mean? And want to add something to it, so someone turns around and goes, oh yeah, you actually made that really, really better. Where I think that's what other religions were trying to do when they were coming in and people having their own kind of the say on it. So then I went to St. Francis in my head, and I'm thinking to myself, right, you've got Jesus, you've got the Romans, say about 1,000 years, and then you have Jesus coming along. So 2,000 years, so say 2,000 years ago, Jesus would have been the idea of the start of Christianity and the start of all of this. And then St. Francis is the year 1200. So as about 1,200 years go on, so I think the effect of Jesus might have like spread for about 1,200 years. And then all of a sudden, the Romans were having the same problem in Europe, in Italy. Mm. And they used, might be the same tactic.
Yeah.
The idea of turning from, as I said, they already had temples that were made to Roman gods, the Roman god Minerva, and they already kind of understood the idea of religion and how it works, and I think they used the same tactic maybe with St. Francis. Now the thing about St. Francis is, as they probably got a little bit cleverer as well, St. Francis lived with the lepers. They knew St. Francis probably wasn't going to last that long, and anyway, he had 5,000 followers at the time when he died, and they kind of jumped on the hitch of that as well, and they promised to build churches and promised to do all of this stuff as long as the priests controlled. And I know, living in Ireland, that if you went back to the 80s, that's exactly what the priests did. That's exactly what the whole Catholic Church did. They controlled the whole country. And you know what makes it even more crazy? When we think about who controls Christianity now, where is it?
Oh, good question.
Rome.
Well, Rome, yeah.
The Vatican.
Still,
the Romans still own it. They still have control. They still look after it. There's been many popes, right? But there's only been 3 popes that haven't been Italian. If we owned that control of the world, which control of religion, control of people's thoughts, control of a massive number of people through an idea and an ideology, why would you give it to different countries? Do you get what I mean? You'd keep it inside the Italian. You'd keep it inside people that you can control. So we have things like, it's evident, and I'm not saying this, that St. Francis used to go up to a cave right in Assisi, and we went up to this cave as well on the moped. It's crack on the Vespa, the Rasby Nesba.
was it?
The Rasby Vespa, yeah, that's what it's called. The Ramsey Vespa, is it?
Yeah, the Vespa, yeah.
Yeah. So we went up to this cave, and anyway, and he used to suffer with mild depression. People see these people as like gods, if you must, or people that weren't human, that walked around, love me. And these are human beings that have doubts, that have fears, that are hungry like the rest of us, and so he suffered from depression. But the first person to receive stigmata was St. Francis.
Alright. So
St. Francis repaired, and stigmata, if you don't know what stigmata is, if you check the film out, make sure you're not watching it alone or in the dark, because it's scary as shit, isn't it? But stigmata is that you get... Shane ringing me there. It's got to be in the recording now. You hear that, just hung up a phone call. Because we're actually doing this on the Limor app. So we have the Limor app downloaded on my phone. And this is me and Dean chilling, having a conversation, putting this on the app. So you can do it yourself as well. Make sure you go to the app store. Make sure you follow me though, or there'll be war. But where was I gone? I was lost in, wasn't I?
About stigmata.
Yeah, so stigmata. So stigmata is that you get holes through your hand and holes through your feet.
Yeah.
Now, I know people that suffer with mental health, and people suffer with depression and stuff like that. Self-harm becomes a part of that. And I said this to Father Man. I said to him, like, could that not be in self-harm? Because I'm trying to imagine the moment where two holes appear in my hand. Do you get what I mean? Like, does it just open out? What happens? Does it not? And he couldn't really answer it in a way, and said, that could have been. And when you read about when they receive it, they were the only people, Paddy Holohan was the only other guy ever to, and that wasn't too long ago. I think that was in he died in the 60s or 70s.
Did he?
Maybe a little bit earlier, but like not thousands of years ago.
Right.
But Paddy Holohan had it.
Yeah.
Where he had holes in his hands and he used to wear gloves and stuff like that. You can go and touch the glove and stuff like that now. Crazy, isn't it? Yeah. That's what I was like, wow, that's crazy. But they don't talk about, like, there's no writing on the moment. I was in the bathroom and all of a sudden, I shot and the holes start coming through my hands and stuff like that. And it's like, they talk about that they received it. So is this a permission that you're granted to be able to do this to yourself?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Without being judged by God.
It's not questioned. So, God done it. He had it. End of story. Don't question it.
Don't question it. It's there. Yeah. Shut up. The holes are there. Look at them. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. That's the way it is. Isn't it? And I think that could have been a huge thing to do from self-harm. You know what I mean? So as the further I went, I was a little bit shocked with it, to be honest. I was kind of like, oh my God, am I Paddy Holohan at the sussing out the religion? Yeah. Sussing out the maybe not, but that was just a few thoughts that I had over the weekend. As I said, it was a great trip away, but it was one of these things about clearing your head. I tried to clear my head, but it actually ended up worse off, to be honest.
More questions.
I swear, Deano, we'll finish up on this one anyway, but the idea of when I was around a lot of people that were religious, there was people that were there that are like me, that are just kind of like spiritual, and as I said, I don't believe that there's a higher power that I have to give my love or anything. I feel people are who I have to give my love to. Yeah. People are who you have to give your goodness to. And I don't let people treat you like a tick either, but I think that's a huge part. That's where the happiness comes from. That's where the good energy comes from the idea of being able to look after somebody and give somebody something or do something for somebody without thinking about something in return. A great little thing that was said, and I will hold this, but I don't think that God is present. I believe that great things are present. It says, wherever you find love and charity, God is present. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fine, but everybody wants to find them, so if for me to be happy with them, then you say, well, you must be accepting God.
You must be accepting God, you're bang on there.
But I'm not. I'm happy where I am. Yeah, but this is God's doing. Prove it.
And this is how...
But he doesn't have to, he done it for you. But it's like people, your car might break down tomorrow and you have no money, but Friday comes along and €400 is that ended up in you. The money you need, that's God.
I know.
That God did that for you.
Like, listen to this one, right? One of the holy people that was there, right, said that we were in this temple thing, and he'd been in this temple thing, and she got a phone call, and it was off somebody called Francis, and she was like, oh my God, how weird is that I got a phone call off somebody called Francis, and we're in St. Francis. Come on, I can explain that. He decided to ring you. Ask him. Answer the phone and ask him. It's not God ringing you, love, right? And this is a funny thing. We're leaving the church, right? We're in a church. I got asked to take my hat off, you know, right? Wasn't having it. I'm under a picture of where there's the paintings in these churches and basilicas are absolutely incredible. So I'm there and I'm standing under this painting of where the Messiah was supposed to be born, right? And what the Romans did is they ran and tried to kill every single baby in the town that they could find, right? And there's a picture of like babies being slaughtered all over this thing, and it's a painting and it's graphic, right? And the security guard walks over to me and taps me on the shoulder and says, take your hat off. I'm like, why? He's like, show some respect. You're grand, mate, yeah? I'm alright. And I just walked out, and I think that's the last time I'm probably ever going to be in a church for anything. Not even to go into things like that, because how can I take my hat off and show respect for something like that, where if someone walked into my gym, you don't have to bow down to me. Yeah. You don't have to take your hat off. You don't want it. You don't. That's a real church. That's what we said at Farmer. That's a real church. That's the way where people can go somewhere and feel like they don't have to impress people. They don't have to. They just have to do what's good for them and make themselves feel happy, and that's it. And the word God, God over all. If you think of back to the Roman times, what were all of them called? Gods.
Yeah, true.
They just dropped the S, Deano. They just dropped the S. That's episode 20. It was great to sit down and have a little chat with my man Deano. Make sure you check it out, or you can check it out on YouTube, iTunes. I think it's actually going up onto Spotify now as well. Yeah, and that's the end of the road. But that's my theory on how the Romans were the smartest motherfuckers on planet Earth and realised that whipping people and hurting people and threatening people is probably not the greatest way to control people. You actually create martyrs, and these guys rise up and try to attack you. And let's say after about 10 years, I know the Romans are tough motherfuckers, but they might have got on their head a little bit and they might have got a little bit emotional about it and realised that it's not the way. So if we offended anybody, my bad. Look after yourself. Catch us next time. Episode 22. 21. Where I have female fighter Limor on. This girl is an absolute inspiration. Make sure you check her out.